everyone, and welcome into Career Competitor. I'm Steve Meller. I'm delighted that you've chosen to join us on this first episode of 2022. And just a reminder, we are the show that seeks to light that competitive fire within you in order to jumpstart or optimize your career. So with that being said, welcome into my first installment of my competitive call for 2022. Now, the idea behind the competitive call is I'm just going to hit you with a notion, if you will, and let it sit for a little while, and then just really give you some food for thought and maybe even an action step or two for you to go away and think about as well. Keep these episodes nice and short. Let's get to the point. So with all that being said, I'd love to bring to your attention today the notion of how we've been sold on being good enough. And you're going to hear this and think, is this the focus of this episode, Steve? Being good enough? Well, absolutely not. But I want to really get you thinking about this at the early part here of 2022. Because the fact of the matter is, folks, throughout our lives, we have been assessed on doing good enough. That is the truth. No matter what book you might be reading right now on being able to become excellent at whatever it is you do, to advance whatever piece of knowledge it is you've decided to advance this early point of the year, being good enough is something that we have been sold on and had put into us from day one. Now, you might be at a point where you want to push back against that, and that's fine, and we'll get to that. But let's talk about this notion of being good enough. When you think about growing up under the eye of your parents, being told, don't do that. The idea there is that, hey, listen, if you don't do that, then you're doing good enough. You're doing what I asked you to do. And that's enough. When we go to school, the idea of attaining grades, and I get it. When it comes to grades, there is this tiered system, A, B, C, D, whatever it is you grew up with. And you're going to hear that and say, well, if you got an A, you were doing more than good enough. Well, the part that I want to push back with here is the idea that within our education, we've been told what we need to know. Whatever class it is you're doing, you're being told what you need to know. Rarely are you in a class through early years of school, through high school. It's only when you really get to sort of that master's degree level that maybe you're being incentivized to go away and learn more, advance your education, advance your experiences a little bit more beyond whatever the curriculum may say. But a lot of our school journey was based around doing good enough, was based around being given what you needed to know, and that's it. When we enter the workforce, for a lot of us, in a lot of cases, we find ourselves being expected to do what's expected of us. Again, doing good enough. Think about keeping your job versus losing your job. If that's the line that you've been existing on, then you've been doing good enough. Then you've been doing what's required of you. And for some of us, that's okay. Sometimes I wonder, what if the world we were brought up in had sold us on setting ourselves apart, on pursuing levels higher than we were shown? Where would we all be today? It's something to think about. Because when I look back at my childhood, when it comes to school, I was doing enough. I was presented how to do enough, and then I did enough. I wasn't trying to set myself apart. And the fact of the matter is, I can't answer this question for you either. You're your own person. Now, the other part of this argument, especially when I look back on my childhood, is having a passion in life. Doing something that excited you, doing something that was fun. The fact is that those that found passions, those that use their time outside of school and away from time with family and friends to advance their knowledge, for honing their craft, went on to probably reap the rewards. That blueprint was not sold on a day-to-day basis. As individuals, we had to take the initiative to dare to be great and to realize our potential. For me growing up, it was sports. Sports was everything to me. And again, you're hearing that and saying, well, of course it was. It was easy. It was fun. It was competitive. All these things that really fit with your personality, with who you are. But let me present it from this perspective. When it comes to sport, I was educated on succeeding to the highest levels because about 3/4 of what I watched on TV was sport with my dad, and I was witnessing how you win, how to perform at elite levels, what it meant to compete, to put yourself out there, to see what you're made of. And like I said, I would be watching these things with my dad, who would sit there pointing out why someone was special, or why someone screwed up and made a mistake, or the reasons why someone won. Have you ever thought about it from that side of things, specific to your passions in life when you were growing up? What were you presented before it became a passion? If you were someone that pursued art, did you pursue art because someone just gave you a paintbrush and you started painting? Or did you see what it looked like to create incredible art? Did you learn the process of what it means to become a great artist? Same goes with being a musician. And the reason I'm using these examples from the arts, from sport, is because we tend to sort of pursue these things growing up. But again, let's stick with that example of music. Every time you got in the car as a child and you listened to the radio, well, you were listening to music. You were listening to a finished product, someone that had set themselves apart to build a name for themselves within an industry. And to do that, you have to strive for excellence. So again, was it the fun of doing something different that maybe took you away from your schoolwork, if that was the case, for me at least? Or was it because you'd had your eyes open to an excellent version of something that gave birth to that passion? If you go back and think about school, maybe you were a grade A student. That's great, good for you. I wasn't. But if you were, it would be interesting to think about why that was. Were you satisfying someone else's criteria and that was enough for you? Or were you pursuing a passion? Were you looking to set yourself apart? Again, if you were, great. But ask yourself, why? When I come back to my example, did I pursue sports to an elite level because it was fun? Or was it because I was exposed to a culture of pursuing excellence and of setting yourself apart? Again, how can I possibly know the answer to that for sure? Because I love my sports and I love competing and I love the challenge. But let's bring it up to the present day. Today, my passions, when I think about it, they've become my passions through being exposed to elite examples. I work as a coach. I work on leadership. I teach people how to compete. I help people advance their careers. I've been exposed to all of these things, either through this podcast, through my experience in sport, whatever it is. I've come to learn what the elite version of all of these things looks like. And that has been a catalyst for me to want to pursue it further. And it's become a passion. And it's now something that I do for a full-time living. So what came first? The passion or the exposure to an elite mindset? The idea behind these competitive calls on these episodes is to get you thinking in a way that's uncomfortable. Don't allow the way in which you were brought up, don't allow the environment within which you've existed to dictate what's enough. Demand more of yourself. Expect more of yourself. Be comfortable with being a little bit more uncomfortable with the environment within the culture that you're willing to exist. If you can establish that in yourself, you're off and running in 2022. You're already setting yourself up for a great year. So just ask yourself why you're passionate about something, or why you're content just being good enough at something. Because maybe you can raise your mindset and your approach by just exposing yourself to what it means to be elite. I hope you benefited from this short and sweet competitive call through the Career Competitor podcast. I really love doing these. I did a few of them last year. My goal for this year is to be providing at least one a month. So look forward to receiving these little 5 to 10 minute bursts of what I hope is motivation. Again, if you're ever looking to reach out and connect with me, steve@careercompetitor.com. Find all my information on the website as well at careercompetitor.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, take the time to go do that today. I'd love to connect with you. And in the meantime, best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on within your world. Go compete at higher levels. And I look forward to speaking with you all again soon.